Now, democracy, as we know it, thrives on the citizens' active participation, effective participation, if you ask me, for political knowledge on how to go about such periods. And now the Nigerian political scene has been agog with activities ranging from registration to other forms of voter education, to at least as a precursor to elections generally. Obviously, we're not done yet. There are the general elections around the corner. Now, going by the elections held so far, it has become imperative that the electorate need more than what they are being told or what kind of tutelage they get at the polls, that's location of elections on such days. Now, the question will be asking, how much political education, how much voter education will the average Nigerian get, or should they get when it comes to electoral process, be it pre or post electoral period? Now, can knowledge or lack of it actually stand as an impediment in what to do to achieve a free, fair and credible election? And what role do the political parties as well as other stakeholders get to give when it's time to perform this electoral exercise? Well, these and more such questions will be coming your way on this edition of the program, Nigeria Today. My name is Blessing Abu. Welcome. Now, to take a look at some of these questions we've raised on Nigeria Today, I'm being joined in the studio. Two guests here already seated. To my immediate left, I have Ata Achimugu, is a member, Board of Trustee, Buhari Campaign Organization. It's a pleasure to have you on the program this evening.
Thank you. God bless you.
Also with us in the studio is Ngozi Ekelba. She is the Director of Political, Civic, Ethics and Values with the National Orientation Agency. Madam, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers.
Now, let's get to the business. Of course, elections are here, and electorates are warming up to do what they know how to do best. For those who even want to do that, for most of the time, we see people actually feeling the sense of it's not really about us, it's about some other things. And for fear of not being disenfranchised, some of them will still go. But really, how much of what is the level of voter education in Nigeria, and is it good enough for what we have? Thank
you. Good evening, Nigerians. You see, I want to start by saying that the average voter in Nigeria has less education as regards his civil responsibilities in all the electoral processes that are taking place. I said this not out of prejudice, but for the fact that we know that the politicians have been capitalizing on this and they have been buying the votes very cheaply from them. Because if I know exactly what it cost me to sell my vote cheaply and the duration I'm going to suffer, as a result of that, my action, I think I will not go for such.
Well, I know it's not just an aspect of vote buying that is even the issue here now. For nations, most of the time you get to know that the practice for democracy is getting the ruled involved in active participation. I'm coming to Bisokaba now. For us as a nation, how much of that has really trickled down in getting the citizens to actually be active and participate in knowing what to do when it comes to election?
Yes, you see.
Okay, sorry. I know that as an agency, National Orientation Agency, our primary mandate is to mobilize and sensitize the people on the practice of democracy. And one of these is the electoral process. And we have been doing this all this way since we chose democracy as our government, a form of government, which of course is the best form of government. And I do not want to believe that the citizens do not have enough voter education. They do. There is serious awareness now on the citizens participating in politics or even participating in election.
So if they do, why has this integration not been deep enough to change the narrative that we have?
You see, values is difficult to change, especially with adults. I think what is playing out now is values, which of course we have lost for some time now, and we're trying to. And the National Orientation Agency is working seriously to ensure that these values that are eroded are back, you know, because it's not that people do not know what to do. They know what to do. Like Alhaji talked about vote buying, if I may start from there. He talked about vote buying. I mean, average Nigerians, when you discuss it outside, they will tell you that people are hungry. People are hungry. Is that why you should buy vote for 4,000? After spending that 4,000 that moment, what becomes of you the next moment? That is what we should be asking ourselves. So this issue of people are hungry, or that is why they sell their conscience, they sell their votes, I do not want to buy that.
So for you, value reorientation is what is missing, or what is missing, value orientation and perhaps reorientation. Now, we also know that other factors actually helping to raise the kind of political education that we have today, or perhaps erroneously. Let's take a look at some of those things that you've already started talking about, voters, vote buying. What other factors could brought us to this level? It wasn't like this from the beginning.
So if I may chip in again, you see, the sophistication of a voter depends on mostly two things: the information available to him.
So do we have that information?
The information has not permeated enough to every nook and crannies of this country, to be sincere. There are so many rugged terrains that even the INEC, in the process of their registration, could not even have access to those areas. I can remember very vividly that in those days when we were growing up, the Federal Ministry of Information, they have what we call this OBV vans with loudspeaker on top. Very rugged Land Rover vehicles that can go to every other district. They penetrate these areas and pass all the information down to the deep root of this. I can remember when Dick Tiger, late Dick Tiger, who got blessed memory, won the boxing laurels. You see, I was able to know about it because of those things. I was deep in the jungle where the vehicle come and said Dick Tiger, and then we were able to see it.
So where are those vehicles today?
No, that is the 1 million naira question.
Maybe Madam National Orientation will let us know. So,
Yeah.
are you employing such means? Because if government is going to reach out, definitely the bases are where we're going to go to. These are places maybe the unreached. So what has been the problem in getting out this information to the nooks and crannies? Like
I actually agree with him that using the mobile van will go a long way in carrying out or involving, engaging other citizens to participate in politics. I remember during MAMSA, you know, we used it a lot to mobilize people and sensitize people on any government policies, programs, and activities, and it worked very well. Now, because those vehicles are aged and have not been maintained for some time, they are now bad.
We cannot purchase them.
And we cannot purchase new ones because of the challenges in quote that we have. And then, even in the office now, we have mobile van, which we also deployed during the Ekiti election. We used it during the Ekiti election, and they went around all the local governments, almost all the local governments in Ekiti, to sensitize Ekiti people to come out and exercise their civic responsibility. Because it is their right, actually. They need to come out. And I want to believe that Nigerians, they know that elections are taking place and that they will come out.
Okay, we know that just election doesn't just happen on that day alone. There are several activities in that electoral circle. Now, let's take a look at what kind of motivation, what kind of political awareness should the people be getting, at least, to put them on the forefront of, okay, eventually I'm going to exercise my civic duty in the best of interest, whether that person is coming to me or not with whatever incentives. What kind of political awareness or education should the people be getting?
Actually, in National Orientation Agency, what we deploy all various kinds of strategies to reach out, such as organizing stakeholders meeting. I just came back from Osun State where we organized stakeholders meeting. We had the political parties present, the youths, the market women, traditional rulers, religious rulers, all of them in that meeting. And in that meeting, we discussed, the issues discussed were on violent free election, issue-based campaign, vote buying, and for the need for people to come out to sensitize, to exercise their civic right, because it is their right, actually. So we have been deploying so many means in letting people know, the Nigerians, that they must take part. Because democracy is for the people. They are the ones that will elect the people that would govern them.
Okay, Mr. Chimego, of course, you are of the Buhari campaign organization, and I'm sure from time to time you meet with same stakeholders, like Madam have just pointed out. What are those things that go out in form of awareness or sensitization generally?
You see, in this case, number one, I will limit part of what I'm going to say here, otherwise I'll be leaking out my own strategies. So, but all in all, let me just pick one good example that Madam has just made, the Ekiti election. You see, those OBV vans were deployed, and you see how effectively they used them. You can see that more than 63,000 PVCs that were hitherto not collected came and they collected them. Okay. This is a very good awareness drive which they have done. For us in the campaign, we also know all this. It's just like as I'm telling you now, you know already that if I'm aware of anything, the Buhari campaign organization also knows about all those things. They actually, apart from the vantage position which we want to praise our own principle, we need the average Nigerians to know what his civic responsibility is.
This is just one of such opportunities.
Yes.
What is the civic responsibility of the average Nigerian?
Not that his civic responsibility is that, first of all, he has to come out to cast his vote.
But before then,
unbiased.
Or does he understand? Yes, okay.
Unbiased. And before the election day, it is the responsibility of organs like Madam's organs, the NTA, the Federal Ministry of Information. Those are the primary reasons. Because, of course, if any government that is in power, they tend to look at it as if, everything he does must be to his own advantage.
Parties? The political parties, do they have a role in all of this? Because if she just made mention of something very critical, issue-based campaigns. What we get to see, it's not in that direction.
You see, again, issue-based campaign or education is a thing that will not just happen at a time. You remember what Madam said from the very beginning. It was, I'm hungry, I'm this, I'm that. But then, you know that if you are a farmer, today you sow a seed. It is not today that you are going to reap. It is not today that you are going to reap. Isn't it?
Yes.
Things have been wrong for a very long time. I will tell you that from it, not even, let's be realistic now. From the very day we discovered oil, we have shifted away from most of those things that were traditional to us. I just saw a mascot when I was entering the NTA, when I saw this gong, something making like that. Do you know what that symbolizes? It symbolizes that it's one of those mass, a means of mass mobilization. Town criers in those days used to do this. And you can even see that these betters, pool betters and so on and so forth, they permeated almost all nooks and crannies of Nigeria because they need this awareness and they need those. So first and foremost, we need to take this fight to the rural areas where the population are. We need to let them know, particularly by means of audiovisual now, because the level of literacy also counts a lot. If you are going to throw flyers, how many people are going to read it? But audiovisual, for instance, now for which NTA and all of that television stations.
So far from what we've just said, we don't have enough information for
I beg to submit that we don't have enough, and we need really to work on those bases so that the electorates will be able to be talking on ideological basis, what suits my nation, vis-a-vis what is obtained in all other nations, and so on and so forth. I wouldn't speak on political issues, otherwise when we come to the campaign, I will have delved more into this thing, but let's keep it that in another day.
Okay, he is talking about grassroots mobilization, which is very, very key because we have most of the population in the grassroots and they need to know what is happening. Most of them do not have TV. Most of them, they depend on radio and one-on-one advocacy. And my office have been doing that. Don't forget that we are in all these 774 local governments, and we have been doing that. We use advocacy we even visit churches and mosques. Now, I'm sure, Alhaji, you also, know that in the mosque, they announced that people should go and collect their PVCs. Make sure you register and collect your PVCs. And even in the churches, these are happening now. And with that, people are becoming aware, especially those of them in the grassroots. Also, the National Orientation Agency has also been preaching against this vote buying, selling your conscience, that you should not mortgage your future. We have been doing that,
okay,
and we do that.
Being on the field, what have been your experience? What are those complaints, or what are those observations from the people, or what you observed by yourself, or that is your office now? Okay, that is stalling people getting this awareness in all fullness.
Okay, let me give an example with Anambra, where the community mobilization officers talk to people to go and collect their PVCs. There was a time INEC has their roving team that go around to register people, and then they discovered that they were going when people were not around, probably market days. Okay. So my people, when they noticed it, the community mobilization officers, when they noticed it, they had to lay the complaint to INEC, and then INEC had to. Now, first of all, they went to the traditional ruler to complain, from there to INEC, and that process was changed, that before they go for such registration, they have to inform that community that they are coming so that they will be available. Okay. These are some of the things that we have noticed in the state. And then, people are also, because of insecurity these days, remember what happened during Anambra election? Because of the IPOB pronouncement threatening, and people were like, oh, people are not going to come out to vote. But National Orientation Agency, we moved in and we told them that they should come out, nothing will happen to them, that the security people are all there, the security agents are all there, and they are assuring everybody that they should come out and nothing will happen. And of course, nothing happened. Anambra election came and passed, and it was devoid of violence, just like Ekiti too. Ekiti was devoid of violence. There was no violence in the Ekiti election, despite except the vote buying that was, of course, we should all know, exactly, was very obvious. And we should not forget that this issue of vote buying had been there. It's just that is progressively becoming a norm in the electoral process, which we must tackle headlong, to stop it, or else the credibility of the democracy in Nigeria will be questioned. Okay,
ladies and gentlemen, we actually went to the street to get the opinions from the resident here on what they think about voter education. We'll get to see that, and when we return, we'll take a look at other machineries that we could employ to actually address this. You're watching Nigeria Today. Let's go to the streets.
Here you have this mediocre approach to things, so there's no much of sensitization, as it were. But then we should be able to educate ourselves, having already known that things are not going the right way. Okay, we need to come out the mass and make use of our votes, and that's what I think.
Political party, what they should do in the first place, they should come out and educate the masses how to vote. Like, I'm saying this because it's not everybody that is learned, it's not everybody that go to school.
Yes, I know what to do. I'll make sure that I choose the right candidate of my choice and the leader that will lead me to the next level.
There is need for political parties entirely to educate their peoples whom they know and whom they doesn't know that they belong to the same party with them. There is need both party to educate people irrespective of which party you came from.
Yes, views from the street on our topic, voter education. Well, even as the elections just keep getting taken by the day. Okay, but let's take a look at some of those machineries that could be employed. We know since the return to democracy in 1999, there, of course, we've seen a sharp departure from when people were actually disenfranchised, perhaps under the military rule or some form of dictatorial approach. People are getting more aware, definitely, and people know that they can do more. Now, the aspect of political equality, rule of law, and human rights and all of those are things that will help. So what kind of machineries do we need to now to put in the more? Or if we've not even attempted that, how do we come in, Sachimugu?
Yes, thank you very much once more. You see, one of those tools of mobilization which has been traditional with the Nigerian nation is our traditional institutions. Of late, you see that they begin to fight back because of negligence for a very long time. They have gone far to the National Assembly to seek constitutional recognitions. And let me not, without any fear of exaggeration, they are really a very veritable tool of mobilization of the people. You can see that from the coronation ceremony of any of the monarchs that are coming into place, be it the Ata of Igala, be it the Emir of Kano, be it the Sultan of Sokoto, be it the Oni of Ife, and so on and so forth.
Why should these institutions, of course that's a religious institution, faith-based organization, why should they be key for us?
They are key because that is our very root. That is who we are. In America, for instance, there are various other means of mobilization. You get the point? But for us, there is nobody who will tell you that he does not respect his traditional institution, for instance. I'm not saying that we should make them to be partisan. But when like Madam's organization are coming for any sensitization program, it is, if you approach them and they make this is available for you to talk to. And that's one of the things. Or Federal Minister of Information, when they're going through all of them like this, they will get definitely to the root of the matter. And then the crannies, nooks and crannies will be accessible to them. They know how to permeate this, they know how to do this, and so on and so forth. So we must not forget this to carry them along also in this, voters' education of a thing.
Okay, glad you made mention of that. Now, let's string it back to the main players themselves, the political parties, political gladiators. Oftentimes you get to see, like we've already pointed out, issues or non-issues being thrown at the public, and people form their own biases from such ones. How do we begin to correct such narratives, even in striving for a politically educated citizen who's ready to vote?
Yes, we have a lot to do with political parties, actually. The politicians, they are the ones, in fact, they are the main, will I say they are the problem?
Yes,
yes, politicians, they are mainly the problem, because you cannot say INEC, they have done their own part, but the politicians are the ones that we should be talking to. In fact, politicians, they have the greatest duty to mobilize Nigerians, to support them, to vote for them. So they are supposed to engage the citizens. Like now we have 60-something political parties. How are people going to know the political parties, their logos, and all that? Yes, NOAA has a lot to do when it comes to this. But politicians also, their own responsibilities, even more, if I may say, because they are the ones that want to win election. So they should do more to make people to vote for them, to make people to understand how to vote and how to thumbprint, because that is another thing. Voided votes that have been, this take me to voided votes that we have been talking about. Right. You can imagine what happened in the Ekiti election, where we have about 18,000 plus voided votes. Is it supposed to be so? Now we have been doing our own part by either using jingles to explain to Nigerians on how to thumbprint,
so why didn't
and then how to, we did that. On knowing how to fold the ballot paper, because that is the problem. When they fold horizontally, that the ink will spill over to the other party, and then it becomes voided, invalid. So, and we have been explaining to people that you don't fold, instead fold backwards or vertically, so that the ink will not split over. We also use this kind of medium now that we are talking to also educate Nigerians on how to thumbprint and vote, So that's what we do.
So do we see any challenge with aspects of technology in this area of educating the people? What are your findings?
Our findings in educating people through this is that most Nigerians, when you, like I rightly said, I mentioned before that it's not all of them that have TV to see you demonstrate it. And anytime we invite people, or we are organizing program and we invite Nigerians, of course, it's not all Nigerians, all the electorate that will be in that program. Definitely. It's selected few. Definitely. And then it is expected that those people that attended the program should go out and also teach others what they have learned in that program.
Such stakeholders, do you follow up with them?
We do in the grassroots. We do to ensure at least that they do the right thing. We do.
Okay. Now let's we have just some few minutes to round up this particular edition of the program. Now, neglecting this phenomenon of voter education definitely is going to endanger citizens participating actively, for that matter. And when it is not actively done, definitely the people are sort of disconnected. How do we go around this spec?
Well, I think we have mentioned in this course, I've mentioned already this OB with vans.
Yes.
I've mentioned the issue of the traditional rulers. And then Madam also have spoken a lot about, give you a critical example about Ekiti. There is no other magic way by which you can go about this. Sincerity matters in all these things.
But should we wait until just maybe a week to election, a day to election?
Thank you very much. That is the core. We should draw the timetable in such a way that we have enough time to be able to accomplish this.
Shouldn't this be an ongoing sensitization?
Yes, exactly. It should be an ongoing, just like the voter registration is ongoing. As soon as you are 18 years, you go there and collect your distance. Enough funds should be given to NOAA in all those places without any prejudice. We are in an era where funds can no longer disappear anyhow as it is. So if you trust them with enough vote, they'll be able to deliver. I'm surprised that these OB ones, they should be revived. Give them enough to buy so as to cover the whole terrain, and then let us go and drum into the people's ear.
Madam is smiling. That's a serious campaign for...
Yeah. Okay, because they're working in a difficult situation.
Okay. Yeah, actually, voter education is supposed to be a continuous process. Okay, let me say civic education. Civic education is supposed to be a continuous process. It's not supposed to be done only during when we have elections. It's supposed to what you do always, sensitizing people on their civic responsibility, their civic obligation to the
and
nation.
Our trends move on and come in. We should actually adjust to all of that. I'd like to appreciate both of you. Thank you very much. Mr. Atacha Achimugu, member, Board of Trustee, Buhari Campaign Organization. Thank you for coming on the program.
It's a pleasure.
I'd also like to appreciate Ngozi Ekelba, Director of Political, Civic, and Ethics Values with National Orientation Agency. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And we also appreciate you for joining us on this day. Tomorrow is another time, 7:30 in the evening, and you join us for Nigeria Today. My name is Blessing Abu. Enjoy the rest of the evening.